industry has termed product market fit. And so for us, it wasn't until our third or fourth iteration of our business where we knew we were onto something. And where I see most startups get hung up these days, and I actually think it goes back even somewhat to the single founder or not having partners that really challenge each other, is you can really lie to yourself about whether or not you have product market fit. And so I have so many companies that, unfortunately, like it's exhausting sort of paying the investor that has to sort of pound on them. You kind of know it, and actually you can prove it to others when you really do have product market fit. And I think until the day that you do, you've got to challenge yourself. You've got to challenge your business. You've got to evolve. You've got to iterate. And I don't know. So to me, it's like a little bit before you have a marketing strategy, you've got to have product market fit. The reality is a decent marketing strategy can blind you for a little while. Because you might be pretty good at marketing, pretty good at content marketing, pretty good at social media. But if your underlying product is just, Paul Graham calls it, a lot of companies have moderate appeal, which like they've got something cool, they've got something that works, they've got something that a certain number of customers buy. I don't know what the number is, 1,000 to 20, whatever, I don't know. But most people are not in it to create moderate appeal. Most people are in it to create product market fit and really sell it to masses. So I think that is key.
Also, I want to just add a couple things to that. I'm going to give a shameless plug to Promoter.io. Where's Promoter.io? So we're at about 930-ish members at Ethan, and what we live and die by is NPS, which is listening to your customers, having your customers guide you, other than saying, "Man, I'm going to go the SEO route and just put all my eggs in that basket." And NPS just gives you everybody thinks they're good at serving, everybody's shit at it. Right, because you start adding too many questions, and you're almost trying to guide the answer. Just please tell me you're awesome. Tell me I'm awesome, and you're going to buy more shit from me. Whereas NPS really has a science. There's real methodology behind it. There's a great book called The Ultimate Question by Fred Reichel, who wrote it. And I think that it's one of the things that if you're in a small emerging company and you want to listen to your customers and have them guide you, it's one of the best methodologies that I've seen. Also, to kind of plus one what Pat was saying about fairness, there's another great book called The Power of Two. It's a Gallup book, and so when I first started working for Graham, he gave me a couple books, and this is one of them. He says one of the top 5 books of my career. You can read it. And The Power of Two is basically about working on teams and fairness, and it talks about how it was just like what you were saying. How when Hewlett Packard made their deal, one of them made more than the other, and he reduced his salary so they could be completely fair, so that one wasn't perceived as more authoritative than the other one. And there's another company they reference in the book that talked about, they literally built into their legal documents that if the founding team ever got into a debate that they couldn't agree to, it would go to a coin toss. And for them, they go, if I can't convince Pat, he can't convince me, and it goes to a coin toss and I lose, I'm totally cool with that. But any other way that had a power shift wasn't okay with them. And so if they had to leave it to fate, they could. But the cool thing about it is it talks about how fairness is a primal trait hardwired into you. And there was a university experiment they did where they had these chimpanzees that they taught to do exchange. So they would give the chimpanzees money, and they would give them cucumbers in exchange for the money. So they taught them how to do it. And then what they did is they put 2 in a cage next to each other with a glass wall. And so they go to the first chimpanzee, and they give him the cucumber, and he gives them money. And they go to the second one, and they give him a grape. Apparently chimpanzees love grapes more than cucumbers. So the first chimpanzee sees the grape and loses his shit and completely tosses his cage and refuses to play the next time. And basically what he's talking about is how the whole concept of fairness is literally hardwired into you whether you know it or not. And I just think it's when you're looking at founding teams, when you're looking at coming up with a comp plan, coming up with bonus structures, all of this stuff that's really good. It can be used really good at the startup scene.
What's great to hear about this, I actually am fortunate that I have 2 founding partners, so we're a completely level 3-person team that both brilliant. But I was recently told by somebody else who's gone to a long lawsuit with his 2 founding partners, you need to get rid of your founding partners as quickly as possible, because it's going to be a nightmare trying to make decisions, trying to run a business. It's just better not having partners. So this is a great perspective.
Two things I would say is, go map out all the companies you admire, both small and big, and see if they have partners or not. So I would look at that. And the second thing I would say, don't think, partners are also humans, and humans are challenging creatures. Partners will come with their sets of challenges, I promise you.
All right, so this is kind of to the city building things. There's been a lot of recent conversations here. And you kind of brought up with kind of importing and bringing other companies in. But San Antonio is very unique as well, and it's really hard to explain, especially people who are really far away, different cultures. We have a huge geography problem. We're a very big city, and even our tech industry, even though it's actually pretty robust, is scattered all over. So most people don't even know about Southwest Research, which is brilliant people, and they do a lot of work at the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. And none of that kind of gets talked about in our community. And so the conversations that keep coming up is how do we also engage things that are a little bit beyond tech entrepreneurship? How do you get tech entrepreneurship in Square or finance at USA so that it's a little bit more grassroots growth and it's a little bit beyond the copy and paste of an already proven success model in different cities. Because that's kind of what Austin did a lot with the Valley and what Seattle did with the Valley. They kind of copy and pasted a lot. But our culture is so unique that I think we'll only go so far if we try to take it to another culture over here. So it's, especially with like what you're working on, like the next vision as Geekdom's about full. What's that next opportunity to engage with people locally, kind of inspire them to pick up, the gauntlet and carry it on farther?
So I'll take a stab. I think that San Antonio does a really, really, really bad job of building density. Imagine if the AT&T Center and Retama Park and the Alamo Dome were right next to each other. You would have what other real cities call an entertainment district. Imagine a place that has 200 bars next to each other called 6th Street, and you have a nightlife district. And what San Antonio does, San Antonio goes, no, we want to put our thing way over here, and we're going to do something way over here. And so this is the worst part. If you're young and single, this is the worst, absolute worst city to be in. Because you got to get in your car and drive to that bar you hope that they're at, that the other people of the opposite sex, they're young and hot and sexy, and they're not there. You got to get back in your car, drive all the way to Stone Oak to the other bar where they are, and it's just terrible. And people are attracted to cities where they know there's high density of people like them or people not like them. And so what we're trying to do down here is to do the opposite of what the San Antonio playbook is. So I have to put my head down and ignore most of the things that San Antonio does, which is build density. So every time someone goes, man, we'd love it if you put them in the suburbs, I go, don't forget that they exist, because they are trying to run the old San Antonio playbook. And this is the worst part, is that when I talk about connecting with Southwest Research and USAA and the cybersecurity world behind the government big wall, it all is something that I want to do. But the reality is, when Geekdom was split between the Weston Center and the Rand, I couldn't get people to walk 2 blocks, right, to go collaborate with each other. There's really no way for me to respect the collaboration unless you're physically in close proximity. And so I think that for me, my strategy is literally abandon anybody that's not close proximity. If I find a way to engage them, it's going to be physically having them in close proximity to the other companies and the other startups going by. Whereas everything that I've proposed before has always failed. And so I could go, so UTSA is a great example, right? For the 80/20 Foundation, the largest grant we've ever given in the history of Grand Weston was to the University of Texas to create the Open Cloud Institute, which is doing awesome stuff. They have a lab that certifies Facebook servers. So Facebook can only send their servers to 2 locations to certify as Open Compute certified. One's in Taiwan and one's at the University of Texas San Antonio, which is really cool. But it's such a sensitive issue when we talk about collaborating. Everybody gets real tight. I see butt cheeks clench, and they're just, because they know I'm not going to do anything more other than that. And when they talk about a collaboration center and they look towards me, I go, you're not getting $1 from us to spread out our ecosystem more. And it's just because I know it's going to fail. I know that, like every time I have to go to a meeting at TSA, I always joke, I have to get up, catch my flight, I got to dive to security, right? And it's just, to me, the key is density. So I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I think density is a big one, but I also think that, I think what creates, a lot of these great cities is, I mean, first of all, there is like diversity of function and thought and all that kind of stuff, but I also think that, a lot of times communities are created by like-minded people getting together and working on stuff together. I think the reality is, like, I mean, just to put it like bluntly, like as a tech startup guy, like I don't care that much about what's going on in this area. I just don't. It's not gonna help me build my business. It just doesn't matter that much. But there might be another startup CEO that I run into in a coffee shop that has got similar problems as me, or a potential partnership that we can put together. I mean, like you go to San Francisco and like you walk into a coffee shop, business is getting done at every single table. That's powerful. If you're a startup person trying to build your business, that is really, really powerful. And what happens is you get all these startup-y people, and they're all working in similar industries, and then ecosystems built around them. The next thing you know, you've got the best lawyers that know how to do tech deals. You've got the best accountants that I don't have to explain over and over again what monthly recurring revenue is. Like it should, like, and all that stuff really matters. It really matters. And so, I don't know, this is not a perfect parallel, but it used to frustrate me so much. So when I lived in Virginia, so Blacksburg is where Virginia Tech was, and then Roanoke is where the old school, like, industrial stuff happened. Every city builder always, like, their initiative was like, we're going to get Blacksburg and Roanoke to, like, play well together. And, like, they don't give a shit about that. There's nothing in common. They do not care whether they're 40 miles apart or 400 miles apart. And it's just, to me, it's a bit of a fool's errand. So.
Yeah, but I also think that to that point, the way that we view Austin is very similar, because I don't want to be Austin. I don't want to replicate.
Yeah.
I want to replicate the things that work infrastructure-wise, but I really see us as a region. And so, and maybe in that example, there's no regionality to it, but I go, man, can you imagine if Lone Star Rail connected the two?
Yeah.
We would be Portland to their Seattle. And so I do think that how we view, but again, I'm not going to go up to Austin to try to, strike up some strategic alliances, because I know it's really not going to help.
Yeah. I think what you're going to find, though, and some people may not like this, but, and I could be wrong. I don't have like all the facts and stats, but based on what I see and sort of my gut and what I feel, is that you're going to see most of the community stuff happening.